Early morning in the glorious English countryside. It's a hunting, or more appropriately, haunting ground for a feathered phantom, a bird long associated with superstition, myth and magic. Few people are lucky enough to catch even a fleeting glimpse of this ghostly white owl. In literature, the barn owl has been described as the bird of darkness, a winged spirit. But it must surely rank as one of Britain's most interesting and beautiful birds. It's June, and a pair of owls is nesting in this barn. This year's owlets are already about 6 weeks old, and their adult plumage is beginning to show. The nest lies hidden under the eaves, and both adults are feeding the young. The barn owl's family life and its relationship with its human neighbours is worthy of any natural history soap opera. Besides barns, barn owls occasionally choose other buildings, like this church, where the birds are commemorated in stained glass. Before man appeared on Earth, the barn owl must have nested in rock crevices, as they still do on sea cliffs in Wales and Scotland. They must also have nested commonly in hollow trees, as they do today. 4 other owls breed in Britain: the tawny owl of woods and suburbs, the long-eared owl, which lives in conifers, the little owl, a farmland species, and the short-eared owl, a bird of moorland and marsh. Unlike these, the barn owl has a distinctive heart-shaped face. It inhabits rough grassland, and its numbers have been declining. To help it hunt, it has almost silent flight. Also incredibly acute hearing and excellent sight. It can't move its eyes as we can, they're fixed. To compensate, it can swivel its head right round to watch a mouse. Forward-facing eyes, binocular vision, give extreme accuracy when pinpointing prey. Slow motion reveals the catching action. In low light, it can see more than the human eye, because its retina is more sensitive. As long as there is the faintest glimmer of light, the owl can still see to hunt. In total darkness, the bird would hunt relying solely on its ears, which are even more specialized than its eyes. A third of the space in an owl's head is taken up by its hearing apparatus. The slightest sound, and it can successfully locate a mouse, an unsuspecting mouse. The shape of the face acts like an amplifier, collecting the sound waves and focusing them left and right towards the ear openings hidden under the feathers. The ear holes are not symmetrical. They're lopsided, and one is further back, so that the sound reaches them at fractionally different times. This enables the owl to judge more precisely distance and direction. Filmed by infrared light in the dark, we can see how the extraordinary ears enable the flying cat to catch its mouse. Sound is the only guide as it orientates its talons and homes in on the kill. Truly a bird of darkness. Since hearing is so vital, the bird has evolved silent flight. Many feathers are soft and downy, and they need careful maintenance. Feathers are molted from May onwards, but they're more than just insulation. Some are serrated on the leading edges, smooth on the undersides, and furry on the trailing edges, all to deaden sound. This means that the prey can't hear the owl, and the owl makes so little noise it can hear the mouse even more clearly. The hooked talons and the way they can be splayed minimize a mouse's chance of escape. Barn owls have favorite roosting places. Pellets collect beneath roosting sites. They're the indigestible parts of the prey, so pellets containing bones are brought up through the mouth. Each bird produces 1 or 2 a day. It's already July, and the young owls have ventured from the nest. They're inquisitive because they need to learn about their surroundings. Head bobbing may help them to develop the distance judgment they will need to hunt. By August, they will be independent of their parents, and from autumn they disperse and will hunt for themselves elsewhere. The flight is low and slow to make the pounce more likely to succeed. A hunting barn owl is a delight to watch. Some owls use another hunting technique, post hopping. This saves energy and is often used when conditions are bad. The owl will hop from post to post, carefully watching and listening. Each owl needs to catch about 5 small mammals a day. The short-tailed field vole is the main prey of the barn owl. Owls also frequently eat common shrews, and also wood mice, plus rats, of course, and sometimes birds and even frogs. Come winter, quite a few young will die because food is scarce, but there are many other causes of death too. Owls often hunt by motorways and along roadside verges. These man-made grasslands are fast food places for owls. There's little human interference, the grass grows long, and voles are numerous. Often our only sighting of this elusive owl is a fleeting glimpse in the car headlights. a ghost bird out of the night. Headlights may temporarily blind flying birds which get sucked into a vehicle's slipstream. And morning reveals a victim, commonly a young bird. A minor cause of death is drowning. Many of these fatalities are adult females who've come to bathe, heavily soiled after nesting. They fall into steep-sided troughs and can't get out. Low temperature is also a problem. In winter, a warm-blooded creature needs more food, but snow cover makes catching prey more difficult. Many barn owls have low fat reserves and die of cold and starvation. But high mortality is quite usual in populations of wild creatures. If all young barn owls survived, we'd soon be overrun. February, and our pair are now roosting together in their barn, protected from the harsh midwinter weather. Owls are faithful to each other and to their nest sites. Some sites have been occupied by generations of owls for 100 years. Wild individuals have been known to live up to 13 years. The numbers of all bird species are naturally regulated, keeping them at a surprisingly even level year after year. So if numbers do go steadily down, then man may well be responsible. In the 18th and early 19th centuries, shooting and associated gamekeeping caused a decline, although owls had earlier benefited from land enclosures, from hedgerow planting and barn building. Later, the Victorians may have further reduced numbers with their fascination for natural history. They stuffed their houses with owl ornaments. Early in the 20th century, the pole trap was still taking its toll, and later some farm chemicals would do the same. The most important reason for the owl's decline has to be the changes in man's agricultural practices. There is less suitable habitat because since the 1930s, acres of derelict fields and grassland have been ploughed up.
The good golden acres of home unfold beneath us as we look down on some of the abundant harvest which has sprung from 500,000 acres of one-time derelict fields which have added their abundant yield to this year's record crop of corn.
The campaign during these war years to produce more food resulted in bigger fields. Rough grassland was ploughed up, hedgerows were removed, and pastures were drained. Bad news for the barn owl, although intentions were honourable.
Our land has given us richly of its bounties. It behoves us all to use it thankfully and not abuse it thoughtlessly.
After the war, these policies remained unchanged, and farms produced too much food. By 1990, there were less than half as many barn owls as in the 1930s. Latest farm policies control food production, and farmers are now being asked, indeed paid, to produce wildlife environment, not surplus food. For such schemes to be truly beneficial to birds such as the barn owl, we need to find out exactly what the owls need. The Royal Society for the Protection of Birds is studying barn owls. The work involves radio tracking, ringing, and the study of habitat requirements. The Barn Owl project is being carried out by Dr. John Cayford in eastern England. It will help us understand exactly what land management needs to be undertaken to help the barn owl. It's spring again, and a new year for the barn owls. Having survived winter, our birds are once again nesting under the roof. For a whole month before laying, the male has been bringing food for his mate. Courtship feeding helps bond the pair. The owl equivalent of chocolates, perhaps. Also, the food provides more energy for her to quickly produce the large eggs. After some owl foreplay, the pair mate. Mating continues throughout the season, amorous advances being made almost every time the male visits the nest. They mate over 6 times a night. Males and females are outwardly similar, but the female is usually darker, more heavily spotted, and streaked on her golden buff back. While she stays at home, the male heads off to hunt. Owls bring no nest material, so the female pulls in and breaks up pellets to line the nest. The first egg is laid in April and is followed every other day by another, until this clutch of 5 is complete. In a good vole year, she'd lay more. Usually in a hidden nest, the eggs don't need to be camouflaged. Being white, they're more conspicuous and less likely to be trodden on. The female tends the eggs until they hatch a month later. Turning them ensures the eggs are evenly warmed and humidity levels remain the same. It's only the female who incubates and later broods the young. She will leave the nest only 2 or 3 times in each 24 hours. To relieve herself, take exercise, preen and stretch. She will soon return, never leaving the eggs exposed to cold for more than 10 minutes. In the wild, the number of occupied nest sites is declining, but the captive bred population in Britain is increasing dramatically. Many captive bred owls are released into the wild, rightly or wrongly. Some via barns like this one. Here, a captive pair is taken to a suitable barn where they will be encouraged to breed. It's thought that hundreds of young barn owls are released every year, but many conservationists say that the desirability of this is doubtful. Wouldn't it be better to create more of the right living conditions for the wild population to increase? This female and her mate will be left to set up home within the barn. Gradually, they'll be weaned into the wild.
Come on, you. Up you go.
But others are released elsewhere, directly into the open. Some into places where there's already a full complement of wild owls, others into areas that are simply not suitable. Only the few monitored releases are held to be justified. Because barn owls breed so easily in captivity, more and more are being sold as pets. Pet shops are seldom keen on publicity, with the trade in foreign wild-caught birds being so newsworthy. So these pictures were shot secretly. Keeping barn owls requires no license, and they are cheap. For as little as £35, you could walk into a pet shop like this and buy one. it would be completely legal. The problem is one of welfare. A child could enter here and buy an owl as easily as a goldfish, with no prior knowledge of how to look after it. Pet owls can die through incorrect feeding, and they've been found kept in parrot cages. There seems a strong case for licensing the keeping of barn owls. It's already compulsory for all diurnal birds of prey. It's now May, and the firstborn has emerged. The owlets are blind and will be for up to 12 days. The male still brings food. The female must brood the babies for the first 2 weeks or so, as they can't yet maintain their body temperature. Chick survival is largely dependent on the availability of food. When the population of voles crashes, as it does every few years, the number of chicks that survive can be seriously affected. She gently feeds each chick with bite-sized pieces of mouse. Within 2 weeks, the family is complete. The youngest a mere few days old, the oldest 10 days older and much larger. Owl offspring are stepped in size, so that in years when prey is scarce, some smaller young die, but at least some older ones will fledge. If all had been the same size, they could have competed equally and all died. As well as providing traditional nest sites in barns and other buildings, people put up nest boxes. Doing so gets children and adults involved in the plight of the barn owl. People feel they're doing something to help. And they are, at least by creating awareness of the bird's problem. But less than 1 in 10 boxes actually gets occupied. They're often put up where there are already more than enough nest sites anyway, or in areas that are simply not suitable. Where there are no suitable sites, in the right kind of country, boxes can attract a new population. Around forestry plantations in Scotland, there are often voles in abundance. Here, there are no longer many hollow trees or old buildings as nest sites, so the Forestry Commission has put up plastic drums. There are some derelict buildings, but they're scarce, so the drums have been entirely responsible for the increase in numbers here. This one has clearly had one too many voles. The plastic penthouses are positioned on the forest edge, from where the owls can easily hunt along the wide grassy rides. Because of these portable plastic homes, there are now 34 new pairs in this particular part of Scotland. A conservation success story. More generally in Britain, a housing shortage is at present only a small problem, but it could be bigger in the future. What was an ideal home for a barn owl is now an ideal home for people. Highly desirable residences, but no longer for birds. There are no plans to convert our barn, where the owlets are now over a month old and still covered in fluffy down. They preserve sufficient heat by huddling. Each chick can then survive the colder nights surrounded by a woolly overcoat and by its brothers and sisters. At 6 to 7 weeks old, they're beginning to look like real owls and line up, waiting to be fed. At this age, the owls are inquisitive, surveying the outside world from the safety of their home. A picture worthy of any family album. Half chick, half adult. How many of the young will make it through the trials and tribulations of the coming year? Growing up, coping with human neighbours and with life's natural hazards is the essence of the barn owl soap opera, or for that matter, a human one. The barn owl is one of Britain's most popular birds. We hope it will increase. If conservationists' predictions are correct and changes in agriculture result in more vole-rich grassland, we could be seeing more of these beautiful and evocative birds by the year 2000. This bird is indeed a bird of night, a bird of darkness. Night and darkness have long been associated with magic. And few of us could deny that the barn owl is marvellously magical.